Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the DVC Show. I am your host, Paul Krieger, and I am joined this week, as always, by my lovely wife, Amy Krieger.
Hello.
We've got the one, the only, Big Fat Panda himself, John Sakari, is back in the studio with us.
I'm extremely happy to be back. Sorry.
No, you're good. We've got Derek DeBoer, Senior Sales Associate with DVC Resale Market.
Do I not get the one and only, or is that just for Panda, I guess?
It's big news. Panda's back. I mean,
I'm excited.
It's been like the number one request on the shows and the boards for quite some time. Just look at that lovable face. How everyone missed you, and we're so happy to have you back.
Me too. I'm very happy to be back.
And then there's Jeff Haslam.
We love you too. That trombone.
We love you too, Jeff. It's great to actually have you down here. It's great having you down here and having you local now and getting to spend some more time with you in the parks and do all kinds of fun DVC things together. I feel like we see each other at least once every other week or so now. So
absolutely. It's been awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for joining us this week. We have got kind of a pretty cool update in terms of the DVC world, which is right of first refusal. Something that we thought was dead as a doornail is back. And the ROFR monster decided to have a quick little snack this past week. And, he took a couple contracts. And I think it surprised a little bit of all of us when it came down to it. I think most people didn't believe me. Derek actually was like texting me after I sent the email out, and he was like, "Wait, what? Is this a typo? Is this like an email that you put in your drafts and you didn't send until like 2 years later or something like that?" But it was real. No one got.
And it was real, and it took me a while because it's been 6 or 7 months since I had to do the least favorite part of my job, which is when I have to call people, buyers, and tell them that Disney bought their contract back. And I literally was like, oh my God, how do I do this again? It's been so long since I've had to call and tell someone. And I felt so bad because they have not been buying anything back. And I was like, it just figured I had to call this person. And she could not believe it. She's like, are you kidding me? And I said, no. Well, how many did they buy back? I was like, 3. She's like, I was one of the 3? I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But
yeah, were these particular contracts like really like tempting to Disney, or were they just run of the mill and you didn't expect it?
Well, yeah, I mean, Paul can definitely touch on it for us, and I think we're going to delve into it in a little bit, is that it's shocking because a couple of them were the Grand Floridian, which it's shocking when I say that, just because when Disney buys back contracts, they tend to honestly never buy back anything that's what's called live inventory, right? Just because they're actively selling it. So Disney makes 100% profit when they sell something live. Like if they sell a Riviera, if they sell a Grand. For ROFR, they still have to spend money to be able to flip it and sell it. So it just has never really made sense for them to buy back live inventory, which makes this return of that little ROFR creep all the more, shocking. And just when you think you've got Disney figured out, they do something like this to keep you on your toes.
Listen, I'm sorry. I'm bringing the cheese early, guys, but it was my fault that ROFR came back because I had caught it 6 months ago and didn't tell you. I put contracts on my lawn. I saw the monster. I got it with a net. And now it got out of my house, but sometimes we still see it. And the only way to find it is if I put a contract up, it shows up and it eats the contract. And see, bad ROFR monster. He loves DVC contracts. So I'm trying to catch him again.
This is why we needed Panda back. This is exactly why we missed you, Panda.
We need a bigger ROFR trap or something now. Now that it's loose and out of the cage. So. But yeah, I think one of the best ways to kind of dive into this topic for someone that's new or that's never really really looked into Disney Vacation Club or DVC Resale before is to really discuss what is ROFR. We call it by its acronym ROFR, ROFR, but it's actually technically called right of first refusal. And this is essentially Disney's option to buy back a Disney Vacation Club contract. So you, as someone that purchases a contract, whether it be via direct or resale, if you decide to sell it down the road, Disney has the option to essentially purchase that contract back at whatever agreed upon sales agreement that there would be. So if I decided to sell my Animal Kingdom contract to Amy for $100 a point, that would be weird, but follow me here for a second. But anyhow, if I decided to sell that to Amy for $100 per point, Disney has an option in which they can choose to buy that contract for $100 per point. And if they elect to do so, it's theirs. Essentially, simple as that.
Yeah. And at that point, the buyer then basically starts over, right? They find a new contract. They can get their deposit refunded. They can get their deposit moved over to a new contract, but they do start over. And
Derek, we know that you've been here since the beginning of Disney Vacation Club, so you know the full history.
I thought you were going to say the beginning of time.
I didn't. I wasn't.
That's what I thought.
I wasn't that insulting. But give
all because I just wear reading glasses and I shared my reading glasses with you now. All of a sudden, I've been here since the beginning of time.
The Cretaceous period.
Yeah. But like for the rest of us here, obviously all of us are kind of relatively new to Disney Vacation Club. The past 5, 6, 7 years or so, been a part of the program. But give us a little bit of background of right of first refusal and ROFR and just sort of how it's evolved over the years.
Yeah, it's always one of those things where when I was a direct guide working for Walt Disney World, you really didn't hear that much about it. It was one of those things where if people brought up, well, how about if I buy a contract on the secondary market? Basically, our ammo that we always had was, well, just so you know, Disney's got the right to be able to buy that contract back from you. So you might have purchased it, but we could swoop in at the last second, within 30 days usually, and decide to buy that contract back. Now you have to start back over at square one. It was always just kind of this strange thing that we always wondered, where does ROFR take place? And we've made jokes about it, saying it would absolutely be the best reality show of all time, just to see exactly, especially when like last year, and Paul, I know you've got, numbers readily available at your fingertips, but last year when they were buying contracts back up, up to 20%, 30%, 40% of all contracts being sold, when they were buying it back, we were like, what is going on? I want to know what happens in this room. Is it one person that makes the decision? Do they put the contracts up on a wall and just throw darts to decide which one that they think that they're going to buy back? It's always such a fascinating thing to think about ROFR. But the most important thing, if you're looking at Disney Vacation Club, and I know we'll talk about it, is how important it is. ROFR plays a huge role in making your Disney Vacation Club membership worthy and making it as magical as it is, because it keeps the price up, which is tremendous, which is why, again, I tell people all the time, you can go online and buy any other timeshare for like $1, right? For 50 cents. So you bought something for 30 grand while you're on vacation, you turn around and need to sell it down the road. You're lucky to get pennies on the dollar for it, because that is what right of first refusal does. It helps keep the value of your Disney Vacation Club membership up. So when Disney does buy contracts back, what happens is, usually the prices go up, right? So we saw when they were not buying contracts back for the last, 6, 7 months or whatnot, the prices were dipping. So people were able to, kind of twofold. It was kind of the planets and stars aligning. They were able to get prices that they haven't seen in a couple years, and they didn't have to worry about John's creepy little lipstick wearing ROFR monster coming back and buying those contracts back from them. So they were able to get a great deal, and they didn't have to worry about ROFR. So just know, as an owner of Disney Vacation Club, while it's never fun when it's your contract that happens to be bought back, at the end, when you do have that contract, rest assured that ROFR really is a good thing, because again, it keeps the value of your Disney Vacation Club membership up.
Yeah, Derek, those are some great points. And just to pinpoint those statistics that you brought up, essentially we've been tracking, or at least I've been tracking ROFR probably for about 4 years now. And if we look through the history, in 2020, Disney Vacation Club bought 274 contracts back. Now, we know that during that year, there was a lot of irregularities because of the pandemic and everything. So ROFR actually died down considerably. But it began to come back in 2021, 579 contracts bought in 2021. Then in 2022, it when you were talking about it, Derek, it reminded me of Alexander Hamilton, and I want to be in the room where it happens, because it's like, what happened in 2022 that changed everything? 1,130 contracts were bought back in 2022. It's just like rails came off. It was free game.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I remember just working from an air. We had borrowers that tried to buy Bay Lake Tower like 8 times. I just could not imagine those poor buyers, just constantly having their hearts crushed. But I think, 2022 is part of what happened to 2023.
Yeah, 2022, they went so hardcore that there was nothing left in the ROFR coffers come 2023. Year to date, buybacks, 2023, 4 contracts.
4.
That's it.
4.
And unfortunately...
I think if I'm not mistaken, all 4 of those people went on to buy something else. So if I'm not mistaken, which is an interesting stat when you think about us, just because of our company and the fact that we've got, I think, Paul, Amy, it's like 65% of like the worldwide market. So we have a really good like pulse on it. And it's interesting because our biggest customer is Disney. So our biggest buyer of contracts is Disney. Because in case people are kind of wondering, hey, what happens if Disney buys it back? You guys do all the... No, Disney pays us. So Disney basically takes over as that buyer. They have to pay the commission to the company. They have to go through the process just like they would anything else. So yeah, it's kind of funny when your biggest client goes from, 1,200 contracts the year before to 4.
Do you send the invoice to like Mickey Mouse directly, or?
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, Mickey, we got no money left. We spent it all last year.
And I think you had a comment about
ROFR. We always hear ROFR in the negative sense, because if you're buying or selling, that's something you got to worry about. Well, not selling as much as buying. But to hear Derek talk about how it's positive as well, it's just a refreshing. And I forgot that there's a reason for it, and it does help keep our values up. But obviously, it's a negative.
Now you bought direct, so you haven't gotten the lovely experience of ROFR just yet.
Correct. I will go through that for anything else. I just wanted that, the benefits, and now I'll go buy through you guys, obviously.
Yeah, we've bought several resale contracts. I don't think we've ever actually been ROFR'd on a contract or anything. Jeff, Jeff's had the sad moment where Derek has emailed him.
In fact, I've had it both directions, selling and buying. But I was actually sitting at the pool in Aulani when I got the phone call from Derek saying, "Sorry, dude, your 2057 Old Key West Extended has been eaten." So
go get another Mai Tai.
Yeah, it's basically what I did. I was like, well, of all the places to have that bad news, I guess it could have been worse. But
yeah, Derek, do you Venmo people like money for a drink after that sad phone call?
Amy is true, because Amy knows, because we have people that literally have bought it, and they are insistent. Even if like last year there were some resorts, and I think Amy, Bay Lake was one of them, where they were looking at like 40+% of all Bay Lake contracts were being bought back. And we would try to tell people and say, listen, this is your 3rd time. They are really buying back Bay Lake. Are you sure you have your heart set on Bay Lake? And yes, we have to have the Bay Lake contract. And they would try 5 times, 6 times. I think the record time, it took someone, I think 10 times. So if you look at it, it took them about 10 months before they were finally able to get that contract. But yeah, most people say, hey, you know what? It's bought back. So you know what? Just take my escrow, move it over, because people will ask, Jeff asked immediately, are you going to keep my money, or do I get to move it over to a different listing? No, most just move it over to a different listing. Then you know what? They try again, and everything's meant to be. Everything works out. Sometimes people go, hey, you know what? This is my 3rd time in. I think we're just going to give it a break for a little bit, but Derek will reach back out down the road. So you're never out any money whatsoever, which is what people ask.
And Jeff, the 2nd time around went smooth. No hiccups?
So yeah, 2nd time went smooth, and then I ended up selling a different contract to pay for that one, and it got eaten up too for for the buyers. So
that's one side of the equation that no one ever really talks about. Is that that's a pretty smooth process for you as a seller, I assume, when Disney buys it.
Yeah, in fact, I dare say it's better because when you're selling, Disney moves pretty fast. You don't have to wait for somebody to run to Kinko's to fax or get notarized or whatever. Like, it's done pretty quickly. So
is Kinko's still a thing? Is that business still even?
Is that still open?
It's like
it is in Utah. It was in Utah.
It's like Blockbuster. Like.
So what really baffles me though is back when Jeff experienced Right of First Refusal, they bought back his 2057 contract. And so why would they take a contract that usually sells for more when they can take a 2042 that sells for less and make it into a 2057? That right there blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. Remember when we said it's always fun to try to figure out what is Disney thinking? Literally, do we know every single day? We're like, what?
Do we know if it's a group or if it is one person that's deciding this?
At this point,
I've heard one person.
I know the same name.
There is one person that runs that department. I don't know if that's the decision of that person or if it's a computer algorithm or what really then drives.
I like that Amy says she's a very nice person because Amy does not want to be on her bad side for the future.
Yeah. I don't think she walks around the parks wearing a shirt that says, I am the ROFR monster. And she just walks around the park.
We had that conversation.
She would get churros thrown at her.
We had that conversation though when we bought the Grand Cal contract with you, Derek. Is we were like, they're going to see the Krieger name come through and just be like, they said some bad things about us. Let's just take it. They haven't taken a Grand Cal contract in 3 years, but it's going to be this one, and we're going to eat it up. But I don't know if there's a rhyme or reason to it. Throughout the past couple weeks, I've been chiming in over on Disboards, talking to people in the DVC fan Facebook group and in other communities, just trying to figure out what might be the driver of not only these 4 ROFRs, but ROFR in general. One interesting one that came up in those discussions was related to the unit of the points. So when Disney basically buys back a contract, Disney can then assign those points across any use year. So any month of an established use year, they can pair them into that use year and sell as a new contract. But from what I understand and what some other people in the communities have said is that they cannot change the unit designation of those points. So if they only have a certain number of points in a certain unit and they're trying to then add some more points to get whatever they're trying to sell or get enough to bundle or something like that, then that can be a reason for ROFR to be triggered. Have you heard anything like that, Derek, over the years?
Yeah, I've always heard, just because you'll have sometimes, for most of the time, when I would sell Disney Vacation Club on the cruise ship, we would always make it a point that obviously we would promote the live inventory. Hey, you got to buy Polynesian just came out, or here's Copper Creek, or whatever it is. But we would always take time towards the end of each presentation to let folks know and say, hey, you know what? We might have some inventory for what's called sold out inventory, right? Which is your Old Key West, your Boardwalk, your Beach Club, your Grand California. So we'd always say, listen, take the time, meet with us, let us see. They would almost always have to go on what was called a wait list, just because Disney, for that exact same reason, Paul, like you might have someone saying, I want to buy 500 points at the Grand Californian, which for a while it was famous that people would go on a Grand Cal wait list, whether you were looking for 100 points or 1,000 points, it would be months. I mean, if not years. And then you finally get the call from Disney who would reach out to us and say, hey, do you know that person from that cruise in 2017? Well, it's 2020 now, but their Grand Cal points came through. So ask if they still want them. And you reach back out and they go, what? I bought Grand Cal points 3 years ago? No, I don't think we want them anymore. And they would just go down the list because, like you said, it is interesting in the fact that, yes, you can shovel them into different use years, but a lot of times it does have to match up to that exact same unit, which people say, but I own Disney Vacation Club. I don't own a unit. You do. you own like, this portion of the door and, unit 64 be 0.003% if you look at your contract. But yes, how they move all those chess pieces around there to try to figure out what to do, because you will always have people that want to add on points at their, original resort. You will always have people that say, I don't want anything but Boardwalk. We love Boardwalk. We know it's not easy to get in there. So I don't care whatever new product Disney's selling. I need Boardwalk point, but I need it in this use year, because I don't want to do the different use year stuff. So as much as we joke that there's, they just put resorts on a wall and throw darts at it, I'm sure these are incredibly smart people. There is definitely a method to their madness, but hopefully they don't get a fresh budget come October 1st and start firing back up again, which is probably what's going to happen.
I mean, have we seen a direct correlation with how good the deal is? Like, wow, these people are selling it really cheap. And is that what Disney's going for? Sometimes does it just boggle the mind and you're like, I thought that one was going to go through, but it didn't.
Yeah, and I think that's a great segue into kind of what these 3 contracts that recently were bought back were. So there were 2 contracts that were Animal Kingdom, and then one that was a Grand Floridian contract. And to answer your question, Panda, I would say that the Animal Kingdom contracts were extremely low in their pricing, and Disney bought those back for a reason. Now, the Grand Floridian is interesting for 2 reasons. So my understanding was that one was bought back at $141 per point. Now, for me, that's interesting because that is a little bit lower than the current resale market average, but there's not a lot of wiggle room between where that price point is and where direct sales, after all of their 25 million incentives that they have going on right now, bundle that price down to. Because Ryan Chung, who was on one of our recent shows, he did a great article talking about DVC Magical Beginnings, which is one of their current buyback programs through direct sales, which essentially gives you a rebated credit against this current year's points that brings that cost down even further. And he did some great math where on a Grand Floridian contract, he got that price down to $161 per point. So for me, for $20 per point, it's not worth the buyback. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I think we also determined that it was based on the unit. It was an old Grand Floridian, right? It belonged to the original villas. Not that that really matters because they can still sell it, the same way. Maybe they're getting low on inventory over at Grand Floridian, and their original intention was that they didn't want to sell out until Holly went on sale, or I don't know.
Yeah, they're going to sell. I mean, those promos are like, you guys know, you guys have done fantastic reports on it and breakdowns and stuff where some of those promos, it's hard to try to tell someone, you know what, you should buy the Grand Floridian Resale. They're great promos. I mean, they're fantastic promos. And the reason that they're fantastic promos, Amy, is just like you said, they got to sell that. They got to get rid of the Grand. They will be selling Riviera for the next 5 years probably, but they got to get rid of the Grand because Poly's right around the corner. You've got Fort Wilderness now. Now you've got the Disneyland Tower. You can't have too much live inventory, which for me, I don't think I've ever seen a time where Disney has that much live inventory, literally on the West Coast, in Hawaii, multiple resorts in Florida. It's a crazy time. So I think that's why they're blowing through those Grand Floridian promos. And then once that happens, the prices of everything else always go up again. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that it kind of sort of jives with what a lot of people in the Disboards community has kind of said. So I actually went over there and just asked. It's been about 2 to 3 weeks now since the dust has settled on ROFR. Those 3 contracts that were bought back have been the only ones that we've seen. And there was speculation galore back then. But now that we've kind of realized that, okay, it's not going to be like this every single week, what are the reasons for ROFR, and what do we think Disney's plan is moving forward? And I'll go around the room here and get everyone's thought here in a second. But just some of the notes that I took down from some of the comments, and thank you again to all of the people in the Disboards community that sort of chimed in throughout this process. But one of the main reasons was to protect the value of certain resorts, to protect the value essentially of that product, because that is something that's not been in place for the past year. Disney's kind of taken a break from ROFR, which has driven down the average resale price of contracts. And this is kind of that check and balance. So it's almost them saying, hey, we're still here, and we are going to kind of put these thresholds in place to kind of put a buffer when it comes to those sales. Another comment was DVC kind of falling into that traditional timeshare trap where they're relying on new inventory to drive sale and revenue. And they're not looking at the value that ROFR has for them like they once did. Because last year, they were offering promotions on all kinds of different resorts all the time. I mean, we saw, like we talked about in the beginning, Bay Lake promotions. There was even some promotions for like Saratoga points at random points. And they were finding the value of reselling these points at a higher price point. And that was a big part of their business model, which seems to have changed this year. Another person said, just reminding us that they're still there and that ROFR should be used to protect the value of the points. So just going around the room real quick, we'll start, Jeff, with you. What do you think is Disney's plan right now? Are we going to see them maybe in Q1 jump on the ROFR bandwagon again, or what?
Yeah, I tend to think so. I mean, to Derek's point earlier, August 1st is the beginning of their fiscal year. I think they've got beaten up this last year, in the market and finances in general. So I think there's been a pullback financially. I think once they get their new budget moving forward, I think you're going to see this pop back up. I think it needs to. Prices have gotten a little low for my taste. If you're a buyer, it's great, but I'm back to, my original old Key West. It's about the same price as when I bought it 3 years ago. That makes me a little uncomfortable. So
yeah.
I think moving forward, you're going to see them, first quarter into the first of next year, kind of move forward with these.
Yeah, people hate when we use this analogy, and I don't use the word investment because that's why people should buy into Disney Vacation Club, but DVC is a unique timeshare product. It is the only one that has appreciated in value over the years. So regardless, you shouldn't buy it as an investment. I agree with that assessment. But at the same time, it's part of the allure of buying it. It's part of why you actually look into buying it, is that it holds its value or it appreciates in value. It's not that traditional timeshare that John Oliver has ranted about on, if you've seen his show. There was a great episode where he just went crazy on other timeshare and timeshare, the
Get out of your
timeshare programs and companies and stuff like that. But that is part of the allure of what makes it special and makes it unique, is that, to Jeff, your point, a couple years down the road, if you want to get out of it, you kind of got it. It is a safe, bet. But this year has kind of shifted that downwards into, I'll agree, an uncomfortable zone when it comes to, just looking at the long-term value. Panda, you're close, intimate friends with the ROFR monster. So can you tell us what he's thinking?
I can't help but think that they're getting their story together and they're getting their business model rolling again. And I think ROFR's coming back. Maybe not 50% of contracts, maybe 20%. But if I was in the market to buy and I would like some extra points, I'd probably be trying to get them now while it's quiet before it comes back. Again, there's no real way to tell, but I have a feeling it's definitely not going away. If anything, it's coming back better.
How many points do you want to buy from me, Panda?
At least another 50, and I'm not even joking, but I have to wait. But eventually, yeah.
Oh, what resort?
Hold on. We got to go. Me and Derek got to go.
Panda, what resort are you looking at?
Amy, I probably would go for the Poly. I probably would. But you were right when you said buy where you want to be, because I never regretted the Riviera, because I do enjoy it. So that was a good call. Because remember, I was thinking about Grand Floridian and Riviera, and you said buy where you really want to stay mostly. So that worked out good.
Derek, reading the tea leaves. What do you think?
Yeah, yes, I think they will start buying contracts back come that fiscal year. I think they wanted to kind of dip their toe in the water just a little bit, almost probably like, oh God, how do we do this process again? So let's just start off with like 2 or 3 so we can get ramped back up because it's been so long since they've had to do it. I think it's not going to be like Panda said. I don't think they're going to come in all guns blazing and say, here's our budget for 2023, 2024. So we're just going to buy back 50% of all the contracts. I just, it costs money for them to be able to do this. So that's what people have to realize is Disney, when they buy these contracts back, they're spending money to make money. Like I mentioned earlier, when they sell a live product, a live inventory, be it Riviera or the Grand or Disneyland Tower, they get 100% of those profits. So like you guys said, with that, Old Key West one or that Grand Floridian one where you look to go, wait, they spent $140, but they had to spend $140 to be able to turn around and sell it. So their profit margin isn't quite there. So it's not the same thing as buying back, say, like a Saratoga for $90 and turning around and selling it for, $225 per point. So I do think it will be back. I think, again, it's a very necessary part of this process of Disney Vacation Club. It is necessary. We can't tell you how many people don't buy Disney Vacation Club and tell you, Derek, we're so excited because you know what? We can't wait to turn around and sell this in 5 years or 4 years
Right.
or 3 years. In fact, what they will tell you is, Derek, yeah, I know there's a secondary market, but seriously, we're never going to sell. We're never going to sell. We're going to have this and pass it on to our kids, pass it on to our grandkids. And I just want to remind them and say, but you should feel good about it. You should feel good in the fact that if nobody sold their contracts, we wouldn't have sold like $98 million of Disney Vacation Club in 2022. People sell for a variety of reasons. Not all of them may be good, right? We have a ton of people that will sell it and say, just like you guys said, you never use the term investment. And in fact, when you become a Disney Vacation Club guide, they're adamant that like you never, ever, ever tell people it's an investment. You say, Derek, you tell them that this is an investment in your family's vacations. That's what
it's an investment in memories, period.
Exactly. And that's what it is. Because when people look to say, God, I bought Old Key West at $50 a point. I've used it for the last 25 years. I've had the best vacations and I could turn around and sell this thing for like double of what I paid for it. There's no other timeshare out there that you can do that. And that is why, despite that we call it a monster and the fact that, John's got a frightening looking puppet for it, it is an important and a very valuable part of your Disney Vacation Club membership. So to see it come back in some shape or form is what I'm hoping. A little bit.
Yeah. It needs
Do we
to be...
think... Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry. Do you think there's anything... There's a myth out there that maybe some of these weird one-off contracts, like my 2057 Old Key West, the Grand Floridian, is because Disney had a specific buyer that maybe was looking for that exact thing, and that's been a rumor for a couple of years that maybe they didn't have it, so they went out and found the one they needed to make that sale.
Yeah. I mean, especially that's what you would do with Disney is you would go on these wait lists and you would say, hey, I have John Smith. I met him at Saratoga. He's looking for Grand Floridian, but he needs this use year and he needs X amount of points. So for sure, I'm sure that might have had something to do with it because again, they want to be able to get these points sold as fast as possible. Like I said, with that example, you don't want someone to go to Disney ready to give them money. Like they're literally like, take my money. And Disney has to sometimes say, we'd like to, but we can't because we don't have what you're looking for. So they don't want people waiting, So yeah, absolutely, Jeff. 100%.
It makes sense for the Animal Kingdom buybacks that they did, but Grand Floridian is just still that outlier that just no one really understands what they're trying to accomplish with that one, unless they're going to really get aggressive with Grand Floridian come Q1 and try to just continue to push direct sales until we see the Polynesian
It could also be that sometimes they just do a random one just to throw us off,
They
so we spent 45 minutes talking about it on a show.
Exactly.
Like random. One magical contract, and they all sit and laugh, going, "Did you see the show?"
Hey, just grab the Grand Floridian. We'll do it. Screw them up.
Watch them.
They wanted us to make a 40-minute show just all about themselves. They're sitting there with their popcorn right now, just enjoying listening to us just make up things when we have absolutely no clue of what's going on with ROFR. If you are in the market for a Disney Vacation Club resale contract and you're curious about more of this right of first refusal information, dvcresalemarket.com. Head over to the blog section there. We wrote up a great article all about these recent buybacks and kind of our initial thoughts of what those mean. And then at the time this video goes up, probably right around that same time, we'll be having the ROFR report for August of 2023 go up. It'll also go a little bit more in depth into all of these, as well as the average price blog that gets put up over there. I write both of those, so I dive deep into the numbers. No one sees me for 5 days, the first part of the month. I'm just writing these things and crunching numbers in the background, and Derek just keeps randomly messaging me, "Is it done yet? Is it done yet? Is it done yet?" So those
true.
So those will be up over on the DVC Resale Market website, and obviously they can help you with that resale purchase if you are in the market for that. But thank you guys. This has been a great conversation. Thank you, ROFR Monster, for making your special appearance.
Jeff, I remember buying your contract, Jeff.
Did it taste good? Was it?
I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Said it was delicious. Said Jeff's is the best.
That is the stuff that nightmares are made
When Amy
out of.
jumps out of bed at 2 a.m. tonight, I'm calling you, Panda. I'm going to call you right
Amy,
there.
it even has feet.
Oh my gosh.
No!
Oh
Wow.
my god!
This is terrifying.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode, I think, of the DVC show. Thank you all for joining us, as always, and we will see you next week.